All right, welcome to the third edition of the Pumas podcast. I'm your host, James Dimopolous. To my right, Cooper Martin. Cooper, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks yourself, James.
Yeah, not too bad, mate. We also have Corey Manticos and Finn Marshall joining us tonight. Corey, Finn, how are we, boys?
I'm good. Do yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. And thank you to Roberto Antonelli. Quick shout out. He was also kind enough to allow us to run the podcast in his home. Robbie, thank you very much, mate.
No worries, guys.
Cheers, Robbie. All right, let's get into the thick of things. Second round of the Cup away to Old Ignatians. The result was a 6-1 loss. Half-time it was 2-0. We'll get into that in a moment. We do have a message from the coaches that I'll quickly read out. This is from Louis Cardinale and Julian Ruggieri. It reads as follows. It was a slow start to the match for us. We finally got going after conceding the first goal and had a couple of really good chances to level the game. Unfortunately, we couldn't finish and conceded a second goal on the counter. In the second half, I felt as though we applied more pressure and as a result, had a couple of early chances to get back into the game, including a penalty kick. Old Ignatians continued to play long counter balls over the top and eventually broke through again. The game was lost by the players. It was a really winnable game, but the players weren't willing to put their bodies on the line, and unfortunately it cost us. It was a game that went back and forth. However, Old Ignatians were able to convert their chances. It was a disappointing result. The scoreline didn't reflect the overall performance by the boys. The boys will be gutted with this result. We'll look again to improve at training and go again this week. That was well said by both Louis and Julian. Let's get into the individual player performances. Now, we have changed the rating system. It will be a system out of 10, so each player will individually get a score out of 10 based on their performance. This is a collective rating. So I'll get Cooper to begin with each of the player ratings, and we'll address into further depth how they went after the rating. So, Cooper.
All right, James, we'll start off with Sam Dallanagare. As a collective, James and I, just a quick disclaimer, this does not include the opinions of Finn and Corey, as they are Pumas players and it's unfair to include their opinions. So, Sam Dallanagare, 6 out of 10 from James and I. James, thoughts on that?
I think that Sam had a good game, but I don't feel defensively that 6 goals should have gone past. I can understand that when a team is getting peppered defensively, then the goals will start coming through. But I don't think that the Pumas were that peppered throughout the game. I think that Old Ignatians were just very clinical and were able to convert all of their chances. Nonetheless, Sam still had a solid game as centre-back. It was good to see him stand up in this game, but I think a 6 out of 10 is fair.
Yeah, I think maybe perhaps Sam and Kev on the goals front were perhaps let down by some other members of the team on the day. Adam Fedornak, the goalkeeper, a 6 out of 10 rating for him. Thoughts on that, James?
6 out of 10. I think Adam, he does have, he can have an excuse. The guy has been playing brilliantly throughout the start of the season. Every player is entitled to a bit of a rough game. I think he himself knows he didn't have the best performance, but nonetheless, between the sticks, he's always playing well, and a 6 out of 10 is a fair rating.
And he's the first bloke as well to admit when he has made mistakes, and that's the attitude we want at the Pumas, because that means we know he will rectify that next week. Moving on, Matt Willisey, a 7 out of 10 rating. Thoughts, James?
Look, I thought Matt was a star. I thought he was a star, little Matty. I thought that every time the ball was out on the left side, Matt playing left back, I thought he was very clean with his efforts. I think that he's come a long way already, and I think a 7 out of 10 for Matt is a perfect rating. He put in 110%. He was hungry, and he was clean all around. So rating's fair, 7 out of 10 for Matt.
And even with the best efforts of Patrick Evenden to concuss him after the game, Matt still was able to speak on behalf of his good performance. So good on Matt, and we hope he continues to have solid performances. Big Red skipper Darren Monsignor. Darren probably had a rough day at the office, and we've given him a 4 out of 10 today. never like to give a low rating to players, but I think Darren knows his usual standards up around that 7, 8 out of 10 consistently, and I think personally he'll get back to that straight away this week. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I think Darren will definitely bounce back. I think he knows he needs to bounce back after this performance. I felt that Darren was pushed off the ball a number of times too easily. We're used to seeing Darren with that big body moving around the centre of that park. We didn't see that, unfortunately. He did have a penalty that he stepped up for, and he did miss the target. But nonetheless, a 4 out of 10.
I mean, props to Darren for standing up. Players like Corey Manticos and Finn Marshall didn't want the penalty, so props to him for standing up to take it.
Cheers, Coop.
That will be addressed a little bit later on. Johnny Parletta, Coops.
Johnny Parletta, 7 out of 10. Didn't do a hell of a lot in the game, but personally, I just think putting an unfamiliar role at striker just busted his ass for the 70, 80 minutes he was on the pitch and deserves every point he got in that rating.
Yeah, beautifully said. There's a reason why they call him the Prince, Johnny Prince Parletta. He's absolute royalty when he graces that field in, like you said, an unfamiliar position, but nonetheless, he was making those runs. The effort was there. So 7 out of 10, perfect rating.
More than fair enough. Nick Levithius, the Greek god, as they like to call him. I've heard you call him Zeus before.
I have.
Lacked his thunder and lightning on the weekend, though. 6 out of 10. A little bit of a lacklustre performance from Nick, only off the basis of the fact that we know he's got a lot more to give than that.
I think at the moment, in this point of time, we can excuse Nick. He is coming back from an injury, but with more game time under his belt, I think we'll start to see a more improved Nick, and I can't wait to see what he has in store. So 6 out of 10 is a fair rating.
We've heard Kostas Manolas called the Greek god in Rome before. Will we see the Greek god in Valley View? That is the great question.
I think we will.
I hope so. Ryan Thurston, Mozzie, as you might better know him, James. 7 out of 10 rating for him on the weekend.
I mean, they call him Mozzie because he's an absolute pest on the field, isn't he?
Robbie's rather impressed with that one.
He's always in and around the play. He's always putting his body on the line. He's a player that leads by example. I don't know why this man doesn't have more of a leadership role, to be frank. I think that week in, week out, he's putting in a solid effort and a huge shift. And once again, we saw that on the weekend. So 7 out of 10.
More than fair enough.
Yeah, more than fair enough.
Kieran Evans, the Kev, Mr. Consistent. 6 out of 10 for Kev on the weekend. Again, I'd say probably for very similar reasons to why Sam Dalanagara got a 6 out of 10. Thoughts?
Yeah, look, we saw Kev start in centre-back, and then when he did push up front, I'm starting to become a little bit confused as to where they'd like Kev to play.
I don't think Kev knows.
I don't think Kev knows either. We might even see him between the sticks at some point. Nonetheless, once again, Kev puts in a shift, and he proved that on the weekend, coming down to help the B players out, having obviously missed the First Teams Cup game initially. So, yeah, 6 out of 10 is fair for Kev.
Yep, 6 out of 10, more than fair for Kev. Corey Manticos with a 6 out of 10. What were your thoughts on your own performance, Corey?
Yeah, look, nothing as special as some players out there like Claudio and Moz, but yeah, I'll take the 6.
There you go. You've heard it from the man himself. He'll take the 6. Perhaps thinks he might have been overrated there. Finn Marshall, 7 out of 10 on the weekend.
I think we're being a bit generous with the 7 out of 10 for Finn Marshall.
I think the goal might have saved Finn's performance.
Yeah, we'll let the man himself justify that rating, Finn.
Yeah, bagged myself my first goal for Pumas, but as all my games this year, I've had good spurts throughout the game, but not as consistent as I would like. So.
Yeah, look, if you're not careful, I think your predecessor in Tyson Sturdy might be taking your position. Luckily, you did score, so you might be able to keep your spot. Claudio Delocco.
8 out of 10 for Claudio in midfield on the weekend. I thought he was hard at the ball. He was brilliant on the ball, and at times it seemed like he was the only player on the park for the Pumas that actually wanted the ball. So 8 out of 10 for Claudio is more than fair enough for me.
I love this bloke. I really do love this bloke.
You can't not.
He is just somebody that can control that midfield from start to finish, even when the odds are stacked against him. And he did that again on the weekend. And he's consistent, and he's putting in shifts every game. Claudio would be an asset to the Pumas long term, and an 8 out of 10 is a more than fair result.
Claudio will be an asset wherever he is. Very versatile amongst the midfield.
Absolutely.
Very good on the ball.
Absolutely.
Taraz, Andres, and Tyson, you weren't forgotten, but we have gone non-applicable for both of you. For all three of you, rather, as we do not feel as if you had enough game time on the weekend to be judged.
Excellent. So let's get on to our 3-2-1 now. From the coaches, the official 3-2-1s from the coaches. 3 points to Ryan Thurston Mozzie. 3 points on the weekend.
Well deserved.
Given by the coaches. 2 points, Claudio Delocco, which I'm not surprised to see. And 1 point, John Parletta.
The Prince.
Very
rounded 3.
3 points for myself. I've gone 3 points, Claudio Delocco. I thought that he was the most dangerous on the field. He was the most threatening, the most consistent, and he was probably one of maybe a handful, if we were lucky, that wanted to be there and wanted to put in that effort. 2 points, I went to Matty Willisey. I thought that Matt was deserving of those 2 points. 6 goals against your defensive line, but I thought he was the best of the defensive line there. So, I've gone 2 points, Matt Willisey. Corey might have something to say about that, but nonetheless, 2 points, Matty. And 1 point, I went Ryan Thurston. You can't fault this guy's ability. You can't fault his efforts. If he keeps playing like that, he's always going to end up in the 3-2-1s, really.
He's becoming the attacking version of Kieran Evans, I think, Mr. Consistent for the Pumas.
Absolutely.
My votes, I've gone 3 votes for Claudio Delocco. Similar reasons to, probably the exact same reasons to you, like I've just said during the ratings. He was just, in my opinion, head and shoulders above the rest on the park. And I don't think there was anyone better than him in the blue and white on the weekend. 2 votes, Ryan Mozzie Thurston, as James has said, just Mr. Consistent, and by the looks of things will be finding himself in the votes as consistently as he performs, because he's just been brilliant for us so far this year. And my 1 vote wasn't anything special, worked hard, played the full 90 minutes, and managed to grab himself his first goal for the club. I've gone 1 vote, Finn Marshall. So we'll get 3-2-1s from the boys as well. So we will go to Corey for his 3-2-1s first.
I reckon Claudio is probably the best on the park. He obviously wanted it more than most people out there. Mozzie's forever looking dangerous currently. He's probably one of the best players the Pumas the last few weeks. And I will give Matt one of my votes, because I'm actually getting quite nervous he might come for my position.
Finn?
Pretty similar to Corey. I'm going 3 votes Claudio, 2 votes Ryan Moz, and 1 vote to John Paletta, because I reckon he put on a good stint up and striker.
Excellent, Finn. Thank you, mate. And thanks to the boys for putting in their 3-2-1s. We've got a few talking points from the game. I think we'll start off with probably the most important talking point, the penalty kick. Cooper?
Game changer. I mean, penalty kick at 2-0. For anyone who watched the game knows that at this point in the contest, we were absolutely dominating Old Ignatians. We needed a goal. Kieran Evans had smacked a brilliant header off the crossbar. We've had a few opportunities before that, and the most clear-cut opportunity we did have was the penalty kick. And, it's easy to say Captain Darren Montignon steps up, puts the ball wide of the post, and massive opportunity gone. But I think the bigger discussion lies at why no one on the park wanted to take the kick. I just think with especially so many first-team players coming down into a reserve picture, I thought there would have been 5 or 6 blokes on the park lining up to take the kick, James.
Yeah, look, I was more so worried for Lindsay Thomas, who was warming up for Portland.
We've got a reserve cup match going on, and Lindsay Thomas, it's just disgraceful behaviour to show up and take the limelight away. We finally had Antony Monda come up and support the boys in a game for this season, and he was turning face the other way watching Lindsay Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, Lindsay, have some decorum, mate.
I feel like, first of all, just a couple of things. I believe it's Anthony Monda, not Antony. And second of all,
I've never liked him anyway. He knows that.
I feel as though Darren almost put Lindsay in a bit of strife there. He almost sconed Lindsay Thomas on the head with that
I'm
penalty
not sure
kick.
whether we should be more worried about Darren or Patrick of who's more likely to take out Thomas, but I'm sure Portland wouldn't be too thankful.
Look, nonetheless, Darren's penalty kick went wide of the post and almost hit West Beach. But I think that you have those boys like Kieran, even Corey, Finn definitely. He should have stepped up for that shot. No, and that's no disrespect to Darren, because I know that Darren is capable of converting a penalty.
Oh, sure.
I think that unfortunately, and I do think that Darren may have looked around initially for a player to step up, and when they didn't step up, well, that puts more pressure on Darren, doesn't it?
I mean, the armband's there for a reason, and he knew that if no one wanted it, he had to step up. And I also thought, the thing is for Darren, he had a pretty average performance before this moment as well. It wasn't the penalty miss that saw him play poorly. He just nothing went right for him that day.
He was getting bodied off the ball.
On his behalf, just nothing seemed to want to go right for him. And there was players on the park like Finn Marshall had been consistent, and like Claudio De Loco, just guys that could have stepped up to take that penalty and didn't. And players might say that now that they did put their hand up, but in the moment, if they really did want it, they really could have taken it.
I feel like, if anything, that miss is, there's the pros and the cons of that miss. The con is the miss did have an impact on the game, but
Changed the complexion completely.
Yeah, but the pro is that you've got players now like Tyson Sturdy, who will now probably throw his hand up because that's strengthened his confidence.
Lawrence Chan was running the line, nearly ran on the park to claim it.
Absolutely.
He loves an easy goal, Lawrence, and there was one on offer there.
Absolutely. You've even got Adam Fedornak, who probably would throw his hand up next time.
Fedornak would like to take the free kicks if he had the chance. So we might keep him out of the picture for now.
Is it true that Chan did score a hat-trick in pre-season, all from penalties?
Chan did score a hat-trick in pre-season, all from penalties.
Against One Tree Hill, that was.
Yep, against One Tree Hill.
It was all three goals we scored that game.
All 3 goals.
Thank you for that, Corey.
Thank you. So, yep, that's the penalty kick for you. It did, like Cooper said, it did have an impact on the game. It changed the complexion. Second half efforts, we've got a note down for second half efforts. I feel as though that game was there to be won, even with the 2-0 deficit. I don't feel as though the players went out there with the mindset that they could have won that game. And having said that, they did apply pressure in that second half early on.
Periods.
We did dominate, but we just kept fizzling out, fading out, whatever you want to call it.
That's 100% correct. I mean, we had moments in the first half where we could have scored, but we were probably unlucky to not have a goal or another penalty for a handball in the box in the first 10 or so minutes of the game.
Absolutely.
But then heads dropped, 2 were conceded, and after Darren's penalty, it was a bit of deja vu from the first half. Something went against us and the heads seemed to drop, and that's what cost us the game at the end of the day. As coaches, Ruggieri and Cardinale said it was the players that lost the game.
Boys, you both having been out there, obviously for the entirety of the game, your thoughts on the penalty kick and the second half efforts changing the complexion of the game? What did it feel like out there? Were you under pressure for most of the game, or did you feel like you were applying that pressure throughout most of the game?
Yeah, I feel like the game was split into certain intervals. Like, we'd be dominating for a quite a long period of time, and then they'd come back and do the same. But obviously, they were a lot more clinical. The second half, obviously, we came out firing. The first 20-odd minutes was only us, and as soon as that penalty missed, obviously everyone's heads dropped. We're trying to not let that happen, but they obviously just went through and just claimed it.
Yeah. And Finn?
We were definitely on top of the other team before the penalty, and then as soon as the penalty was missed, it seemed as the whole team just dropped out and dropped our heads, and that's when they scored 6 goals.
Yeah, I mean, we called it from the beginning, Cooper, that St. Ignatius were looking for, or Old Ignatians were looking for that long ball over the top. The centre-backs in the likes of Jason De Benedetto and whatnot back there, putting that long ball over the top. Their number 7 was getting on the end of most of those kicks. I felt like he was quite a versatile and strong attacker. Do you think he had a bit of a hold on your centre-backs?
The striker was definitely pacey, and we know that Sam isn't the fastest defender of the team. So, yeah, they did utilise the long ball to their striker very well.
Oh, was he the redhead?
He was the long-haired number 7, I believe.
Yeah. He was redhead. Yeah.
Oh, he was redhead?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. Me and him having a good chat. He's nice bloke. Yeah, he's quite pacey down the wing as well.
It was.
So
yeah.
that was we played the old enemy, the old Pumas rival, Old Ignatians, and you were having a chat to one of their players during the game. Was that Corey?
Well, look, he's a nice bloke, obviously, like during the corners and stuff. But obviously, I didn't.
Look, I've got to stand with Corey on this one. I
Conceded off the corner, Corey.
don't mind a chat with the attackers.
You don't mind a finger up the bum either, so.
Well, look, when I had him in my back pocket, it was all right.
Exactly. Look, the third talking point, and I think this is an important talking point, the coach.
Who on earth is the coach of the B grade?
I'm gonna give this to Cooper. I'm gonna give this to you. I know how strongly you feel in regards to this topic. I'm gonna hand this to you, the coach of the B grade.
There's a technical area for a coach, and it's made for one or two blokes, but at times there was 3 or 4 in there. I mean, for starters, I'm not sure who's in charge there. Is it Julian Ruggieri or is it Lewis Cardinale? Because I'm not sure if even those two know who's supposed to be actually coaching that reserves team. Because, and to be fair, if it's both of them, then it's both of them. But we've got blokes like, Lawrence Chan in there barking orders and, expressing his knowledge, and other guys at times. And I just think there's a whole lot of confusion for the players as to who they're actually supposed to be taking orders from. I think at the moment it's a bit of, if you want to be there, you can be there. If you wanted to coach the reserves at the moment, you could, James. If Corey wanted to open his mouth, he could. If Roberto wanted to get a gig up from the C grade, he could be the coach of the B grade.
Look, I think at one point, Chan was so heavily involved in the coaching aspect of the game. I swear he was standing on the halfway mark at one point.
Well, he wasn't very good at being a linesman in the first half, so he was much better in the second where he was, but I'm just not sure who is supposed to be at the helm of that team at the moment, and it might be something that needs to be
addressed, definitely.
Addressed.
I think that in the end of the day, Julian and Lewis have had a fair amount of coaching time between the both of them, and I believe that they do have really good chemistry. I think that they can play the good cop, bad cop role. The good cop being Julian, the bad cop being Louis. Louis loves to pace up and down that line, loves to bark when it's necessary.
Loves to dart when it's necessary.
Yep, and Julian, I feel like Julian's a more laid back. He'll see the game for what it is. He can make those tactical changes. I feel like they can work together. I do, though, feel like there needs to be someone at the helm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't mind the whole co-coaching scenario going in. I think there's a good synergy between those two, but I'd love to see Lewis and Jules stamp their authority and just be like, you know what, this is our team, and let's take this our way. Let's play football how we want to. And I think there's definitely enough talent and enough knowledge from those two in the B grade to start putting some good performances together and win games. So I'd just like to see them stamp some authority on the positions.
Absolutely. I think that's all that needs to be said about that point. Let's move on now to the injury report. Now, this is going to be news to everybody. And I don't want to speak too soon because he slipped tonight at training and started complaining of a bit of back pain. But Nathaniel DeMarco may be returning to the field in a Pumas Guernsey this weekend. I don't want to speak too soon. I did have a conversation with him at training tonight. He did say that he's taking anti-inflammatories for his groin. He said that that's helping. He said he's been given the all clear. He should be back this week, according to his doctor, as long as he's going to take those anti-inflammatories. We could see Nathaniel DeMarco gearing up. And having said that, if we've got Nathaniel, then we've got Marcus, don't we?
We do. For one, Nathaniel, great to hear you back. Nathaniel being back and playing consistent football at the club is a day I never thought I'd be alive to see, but congrats to Nathaniel for being back. And on that front, Marcus, mate, sort it out. Get your driver's license.
Absolutely.
Come on, mate. And Finn Marshall, sort it out. Get your driver's license. For God's sake. It's not hard to drive.
Completely agree. No new news here. Scotty with a corky, so he claims. But we all know that that's probably still just his shin splints playing up. I mean, Scotty, you can't get shin splints at your age, mate, and the fact that you do, you're going to probably need to seek medical attention. Nonetheless, shin splints, hell of an injury, hey, boys?
Shin splints, corky, spraining and pouring. What are we going to do with this bloke?
I mean, 2 sprained wrists, shin splints, and now a corky.
Unbelievable.
Scotty,
like Iron Man out there.
Scotty, we need you out there, mate, or you're going to be wrapped up before you get on that field again. Sam Delanagare tight quads.
I'd have tight quads if I was 7'2" as well. So
I mean,
He
Sammy.
still comes out and trains and puts in his heart, so.
Yeah, he's a classy Jewish man, Sammy. Get on that, put that kipper on, Sammy, and get back out there, buddy. So not too much on the injury front. Obviously, Sam being a slight new addition. But yeah, not too much on the injury front. Let's get to a sponsor shout out. I'll hand this one to Cooper.
our second sponsor shout out on the Pumas podcast and our Adelaide Pumas sponsor of the week. The Adelaide Pumas are proudly sponsored by BRC Electrical. Follow BRC Electrical on Facebook for all of your electrical jobs, including split system air conditioning, telephone and television points. No job is too big or too small. That is BRC Electrical, a proud sponsor of the Adelaide Pumas.
BRC, get in contact with Bert from BRC, and I'm sure Bert will help you out.
And we know that Bert is a proud member of the Pumas podcast community.
I'm sure we will see. I'm sure we will see Brett appear. I know how much he is chomping at the bit to get onto the Pumas podcast, and I'm sure we'll have him on as a special guest in the near future. It's time for those favourite segments of the week.
The favourite segments of the week.
Angry Pete.
Oh, no.
The Angry Pete segment. And this is...
What's got him angry this week?
Yeah, what's got him angry at this week? We might hand this on to Cooper again.
I will introduce this segment. This was an interesting moment. We just had a footy score put against us on the weekend at Old Iggy's, a real tough day at the office, not the kind of day that, we planned for it to be or anything of that sort. But we've gone 6-1 down. We're listening to Old Iggy's belt out their anthem, their song, and Marzi is standing on the sideline, and he says, "You know what, boys? If we're happy and we know it, then we should clap our hands. We've just lost 6-1, and Marzi Tatani is trying to encourage the boys to sing the song. He wanted us to stand in a circle and sing happy and you know it." I thought we'd been embarrassed enough already.
Absolutely, Cooper. Marzi, I don't know what's gotten into you, mate, but to sing happy and you know it after a 6-1 loss, I mean, I don't see that in soccer. You don't see 6 goals go past in soccer. It's a footy score.
You don't see a losing team sing their song.
You don't see a losing team sing their song. We weren't happy with that result.
Not happy with the
knew
result,
that.
no.
We knew that. And we didn't need to sing it. We didn't need anybody to feel encouraged or to feel pressured to sing happy and you know it.
I don't think there's ever been a good moment when anyone was pressured to sing happy, you know. I think we might ask the boys, Corey, Finn, after a 6-1 loss, were you ready to stand there and clap your hands happily?
Look, I was devastated.
Absolutely not.
I mean, where did the happy and you know it song, where did it come from?
I'm not sure. Was it Jules' idea? Or?
I don't know. Should we ask Rob, having spent so much time in the bees?
Robbie,
Sorry,
mate.
Was that Rob spent so much time in the bees? I'm not sure if that's correct information.
Rob, do you know where the happy and you know it song came from? No idea. So
If Robbie doesn't know, no one knows.
That's the Amores question of the night. Where did the happy and you know it song come from?
And why did it come from?
Why
Because
are we singing that? I do know that if there's one player that loves to get around it, it's Sam Delanagare.
Oh, he loves it.
He absolutely loves it.
That man has long limbs and he's more than happy to clap his hands, James.
Oh, when that kipper's on his head, you know he's going to be belting that one out.
He's proudly Jewish and he's proudly clapping, isn't he?
He is. So, yeah, not great form from Marzi trying to encourage the boys to sing happy and you know it. Let's not go down that path. We're not that desperate yet, Marzi. We will get 3 points on the board sooner rather than later, I'm sure.
As he's disappeared.
We're taking a short ad break here at the Pumas podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy some soothing music.
All right, welcome back, and just in time for the Pumas mailbag, one of my favourite segments. We have 4 letters penned in from members of the public who have just been dying to send the Pumas some fan mail. Let's get straight into it. We might go Cooper, then myself, and we'll read them simultaneously. Cooper, you can start us
The
off.
same as last week. We have our first letter of the night, and it is Anthony from Pennington writes, Dear James and Cooper, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the both of you on your recent podcast success. I tune in and listen to the podcast every single week, and I'm absolutely loving the content. That being said, there is a bit of controversy surrounding the purpose of the podcast, and I think it's time you both address to the public exactly why this podcast exists.
That's a
Keep up
fantastic
the good
question.
work, lads. That's a great question, Anthony. I wasn't sure whether to go with controversy or controversy there, Corey, so thank you for being...
I don't mind
for correcting
controversy.
me.
I don't mind either or. But you know what? I'll get right into this if you want, Cooper. So we have received a little bit of criticism surrounding this podcast. There are certain individuals that haven't been happy with the overall purpose. I think it's because they are a little bit misinformed.
I think lesser so we don't need to worry about the direct people, and I think more so we should just take this question as an opportunity for you to reintroduce what the podcast is about.
So the podcast is more so, first and foremost, it's about the players at the Pumas. I think that these boys can use this podcast as a form of encouragement, a good way for them to get their messages across to members of the committee. I feel like it's a good way for them to unwind from what could be difficult weeks and to get some feedback based on their performances and whatnot. I think that this is a good way to keep the players motivated and keep the players interested, and overall, and enjoying the sport, enjoying the game of soccer. I think that these guys really need it. It is a difficult time, obviously, at the club. And I think this podcast is a way for the players to feel like they're important, because they are. And we believe that, and that's why this has been created. This isn't something that is too serious. Yes, Cooper and I have a bigger project in mind, and we do want to eventually take this podcast further into another level. But for now, this is primarily based around the Pumas Soccer Club. And I think that in the long run, we may take it further, but just for now, it isn't something that is overly serious.
That's where we're at for now. I mean, it's something for the Pumas boys to enjoy and listen to, during their everyday lives, and perhaps for those that weren't able to attend games and things like that on the weekend, they are able to, listen to perhaps what happened throughout the game.
I completely agree with that. So that pretty much sums up that question. Let's move on. So thank you for the message, Anthony. Let's move on. I've got a letter here from Billy from Vale Park. And Billy writes, to the Pumas podcast panel, despite not playing for the club, I bleed blue. If I were 20 years younger, I'd fix up my laces and pop on a Pumas Guernsey. Oh, good on you, Billy. Recently, it's come to my attention that the Adelaide Pumas have come under intense scrutiny given this season's current position, not having won a game. From a fan's perspective, it seems a little harsh to scrutinise the current playing group, given the fact that some have never had a taste of first-team football before. Your thoughts?
I'll let you take this one, James.
Look, I have to agree with Billy there. I think that the current playing group has received an immense amount of scrutiny and criticism, and Billy's completely right. These boys haven't experienced first-team soccer before, and I think that there's more pressure on them now in Div 2 than there was on the playing group from last season, who were playing Div 1 and were relegated as a result of their performances. I think that to put pressure on these boys now on social media, around the club, around the grounds, I think is disgusting. I think that these boys are going out there, they're playing their style, they're playing their game. Yes, they've had a few ups and downs in terms of coaching and playing style. But these boys are all young, and they will learn and they will develop. And I think regardless of this season's result, the fact that these boys have stepped up and are playing now and are playing their role, I think they deserve as much credit as possible. I don't think, personally, it's a bad thing if the Pumas were to be relegated. No one said it was going to be an easy season. No one said it was going to be an easy season. So if they did get relegated, I think, personally, it would even be better for the club because they'll be in a position where they need to rebuild at the moment. They do need to rebuild. They lost every single first-team player besides Corey, who kept a clean sheet against Brahma Lodge last season for 20 minutes, right?
And who played next to him during that game?
I think that was myself, and weren't you there as well?
I was there, correct.
Yep. So
the Triangle of Dreams.
It's a triangle of dreams. I mean, some would call it the Deathly Hallows, but I think that these boys, will regroup, and as the club is in a position where they need to rebuild, I think they will rebuild, and I think it's absolutely appalling from people who can sit there and scrutinise the club and scrutinise these boys who, in my opinion, are doing a fantastic job.
And look, touching on what James just said, I know there's a lot of belief from the boys around the playing group at the moment, being a part of that, training and things like that, there's winnable games left in this season, and we're looking we might not have a win yet, but we're still looking for 3 or 4 wins, and we think as a playing group and as a club that we're more than capable of avoiding relegation and having that rebuild in Division 2, which is priority, staying up again. We'll leave it to you for the last message from the Pumas mailbag this week, James.
All right. George from Semaphore Park writes, to the Pumas podcast panel, my name is George. We got that, George. Thanks, mate. And I'm an avid Pumas fan. I attend as many games as possible and was fortunate enough to free up some time to make the cup game on the weekend. Although we didn't get the result we had hoped for, Finn Marshall gave us one of the highlights of the season so far, and I was hoping he might be on the show tonight to talk us through the goal, and more specifically, whether or not he plans to build on this and use this newly found confidence to put together 90 minutes instead of 20 from now on. Well, I think we'll leave that for Finn to answer. Finn, your thoughts?
Look, the game wasn't going well for us. We were 6-0 down at the point where I started to rage a bit and get a bit angry. I did let loose a bit. But yeah, I got the ball down the wing and I just decided I wasn't going to pass to anyone, and I just went straight for goal. Got around a few players and bagged myself my first goal. In response to the second question, obviously I want to build on this and improve my games from now on. We've just got to put in the hard yards and hopefully the results will come.
So are we looking at a 90-minute performance next week?
Yeah, look, we're hoping for a 90-minute performance. Yep.
Thanks for that, Finn. And thanks for George for emailing into the Pumas podcast once again this week. If you do have any mail to send...
Was that George or was that George Poz? Because I haven't seen George Poz for a while, so I'm thinking maybe he's just sending us letters now.
Perhaps maybe George is just... I don't think George's literature is probably strong enough to have written that email. But anyway, in regards to the Pumas mailbag...
that my name is George.
He might. That's as far as Posy would have gotten. Anyway, we love you, George. Not really.
Do we?
Look, wrapping up the Pumas mailbag once again. If you do have any mail to send in to the Pumas podcast, the panel, the email address is pumaspodcast@outlook.com. Back to you, James.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up there. I don't think there's any more news unless Finn and Corey have anything they'd like to address in regards to the Pumas around the club, around the grounds, boys. Thanks, boys. The chips are good. Corey?
No, just looking for a win. That's pretty about it.
We've been looking, for a while, Corey. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, isn't it, mate?
Get well soon, Jai. Yeah, 100%. That's a great call from Finn. We look forward to having you back on the sidelines and the training ground as soon as we can. It's on the basis of looking for a win. 3 games this weekend, the C grade, the B grade, and the A grade. Look, get down to Thomas Turner Reserve, support the boys. I'm sure you're all looking for 3 points. We're looking for 3 points. And to the players and the coaches, let's get some good performances going, be strong on the park, play for the badge on the shirt, as we always say, and just use the Pumas spirit, play with the Pumas spirit, and let's get a win.
And we return.
Up the Pumas.